Okay, friends, I was able to get my first rant out of the way with a video that I'm probably not going to upload. And now I think I can have a reasonable conversation with you about AI. And I hope I'll keep this brief. I think I'm just going to focus on one suggestion, and then I'll continue to have a conversation with you about what I think would be helpful. We'll leave it at that. So, I should probably just give a little bit of background and say that when AI first came into my awareness, I didn't know what to make of it. Um, I actually, the very first time I remember hearing people, the very first conversation I remember was listening to two coworkers having a very strange and somewhat uncomfortable, because of the dynamics of things, conversation about AI. I don't think it was something that I thought I had any use for, certainly. And I didn't until I had, fast forward 4 years, maybe, and 3 years, something like that. Fast forward. And I was in a conversation with someone who was struggling with how to handle an academic situation with a family member. And that conversation is what inspired me to be curious about AI. And I took my question that came out of that conversation to one of the chat models, and the responses that the chat model gave me were very, very impressive. So much so that I spent the next chunk of months back and forth developing a curriculum builder for families who choose to homeschool. That's what came out of this conversation that I had that was not AI related. My point in sharing all of that with you is to say, I came from a place of, first of all, not understanding what the technology was, to fearing, like I was exposed to some conversations about transhumanism, which I still do not really understand. And maybe I'll save my thoughts on that for another conversation. But transhumanism and the fears around that were part of the conversation that I was exposed to. And so I was looking at AI from that perspective and feeling very uncomfortable with it. I was also hearing about the data center and the resource consumption, and that had always, resources and respect for our resources has, since I was very, very young, has been an important consideration for me. So AI just didn't seem like something I wanted to be involved in. And whatever little bit I was being exposed to wasn't interesting to me, until I had a conversation with a family who was struggling with the academic level of one of its members. And I took my curiosity about how. The question that I asked was something along the lines of, what kind of curriculum can we develop or offer to a child who is falling behind or has already fallen behind academically, and also is not interested in sitting down and devoting herself to academics. I don't want to give away the details of the child and all of that, so that's why I hesitate with how to frame it. But I wanted to know what kind of creative curriculum solutions we could come up with, basically for a child who was high energy, high touch, highly kinesthetic is the language that I used, struggling and falling behind academically, and needs to catch up, but we need to do it in a way that this child will be responsive to. We can't stuff her in a seat because she's already demonstrated that that doesn't work. What are the options? And the model's outputs were impressive. So that's when I realized, oh, I can do things with this. Like, I can take an idea and I can build it out into something. So I built that idea out into a curriculum developer that would sit down with a family, like a one-to-one curriculum consultant, and based on the family's faith or non-existence of faith. I say that because I know a lot of families go into it for faith reasons, but also there are a lot of families who are completely secular who have entirely different reasons for homeschooling. So I built that into the model. The family's home state, because there are expectations and in some cases requirements for what the children should be able to do or what the students should be able to demonstrate by the end of their, I'm thinking of educational career, but by the end of their education. So I built into this project a state-related like portfolio checker. And then a bunch of other things. We incorporated philosophies of education. So if someone's really into the Montessori model, they can tap into that. If someone's really into unschooling, they can tap into that. It's a very comprehensive tool, and I was very proud of it. I was very pleased with it, and it took months to develop. And from there, I developed a number of other creatively inspired tools for people who consider themselves to be creative, writers specifically. That's who I focused on primarily. And maybe I'll get back to some of the things that I've created specifically for writers and creative folks using AI. But in the experience of doing that, I never experienced my creativity or my intelligence being diminished by the tools. And part of that is the way that I approach everything. I typically approach with curiosity. I typically want to go in and learn as much as I can. So I ask questions. I look for written material or video material. These days we have lots of options. I look for information and I try things out. That has been my nature. It has come to my attention that there are a lot of people who don't approach life in this way. And I find that very curious, but here we are. So, recognizing this about other people, when I hear someone saying AI rots the brain and AI is stealing our creativity, setting aside the training material conversation and just focusing on people are less creative, less imaginative using AI, I feel challenged by that argument. And before I go on, I want to point your attention to the comments section because I'm going to share a bot that a woman created to help people stay active in critical thinking in the age of AI. So I'm going to put a link probably to her post where she shares this particular tool. And then I encourage you to spend time on her channel. I don't know if it'll be her YouTube channel that I share or her website, but her name is Shae O, and I've spoken about her before. SHAE O. That's like Shae, O is the last initial. And I have spoken about her before. I really appreciate the work that she's doing. She is very interested in reviving the humanities. I think I will add as a cultural practice. And then also very interested in encouraging people to keep the brain really, really active in this time. I say we need to keep the brain active regardless of what's going on. And while our attention might be focused on the newest technology, that being artificial intelligence, my understanding is that if someone were going to score our intelligence in the US, for example, it's been dropping before AI became a popular household topic. AI is not the thing that introduced our diminishing critical thinking or our diminishing creative, um, I'll say, agility. AI is not the thing that has done this to us. It can certainly be the thing that makes it much easier for us to turn over our agency, for us to stop thinking at all, and for us to become disinterested in creating with our hands and our bodies. But AI is not the thing that is doing this to us. And when I see that argument, I'm less reactive these days. But initially, I really felt offended by that, because on reading the argument, it was like the same set of words over and over again, brain rot and AI slop. And to me, that's sloppy complaining. And people weren't having the conversation about how television has diminished our willingness to sit down and read. Just how people are unwilling to sit down and read much of anything anymore. And that has been going on for years and years. And this is reflected in the way that we approach our politics, in the way that we approach our social concerns. We have a tendency in the wider population to rehash and redistribute someone else's argument or a general argument, but we don't have a tendency to go deep into our own understanding of the things that we think we're offended by. And I'm really, really encouraging us to please go deeper into the details of the things that you believe you're offended by. Read, learn the history, develop your own understanding, and most likely, if we actually commit to that, if you actually commit to going in and researching about the thing that you feel offended by or threatened by, you're probably going to come out a little less polarized. I'm sure there's something that's on everybody's mind that we're not going to be polarized on. There's some things we're not going to be polarized on. And I'm 100% for that. And that's not what this video is about. But when it comes to technology, and AI is it's a big thing in our life, and it doesn't seem to be going away. That's the other thing that shifted for me. There was a period of time where I thought it was just a fad or a trend. And whatever it was that I was seeing, it wasn't impressing me as, oh, companies are investing in this. And, oh, this is something that can actually be very useful. Whatever it was I was seeing, and I don't think that I was even seeing the ridiculousness that a lot of the people were tapped into. I think probably I was coming across more things in the writing. And that's where I spent a lot of my time developing my skills, is in the written word. There was a time where I thought, yeah, it's we'll get over it. But the longer I stay in the communities that I am in, learning how to work with these tools, and the more I pay attention to what's happening in the financial markets, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think this is the technology that we have already moved into. The public we seem to be the last ones to know about things. It seems, if you go in and read about company alliances and company products and all that stuff, this has been in the works for a very long time. And so what I would like to see more intelligent thinking people do is get it together, stop making weak arguments about the technology, and start actually learning about it. You may not be someone who goes in and uses the tools. You might be someone who figures out how to make the resource consumption less damaging. You might be someone who figures out how to open up a new job path, career pathway, which is also happening, by the way. There are jobs being lost and there are jobs being created. There are careers being created. There are businesses being created by people like you and me, as well as the folks who have crazy amounts of money. People like you and me all around the world are learning how to use this technology and selling one-off tools and projects and programs and et cetera, and building multiple people companies and also single person companies. That is also happening. What I'm saying is it's both and. Jobs are being lost and work is being created. And the work being created is because people are taking it upon themselves, taking the responsibility to learn about this technology and figure out where they can place themselves in it. I am making room for the possibility that you may be watching this and you may be 1,000% against it. I still encourage you to learn about it because, again, as I said, by learning about it, you might see something other people don't see, and you might see an opportunity to preserve and conserve water in the heating problem that we have. There will be businesses, career opportunities, job opportunities that come out of the need to protect against the technology. I'm guessing. It's wide open. We don't know. But if we don't have more of us stepping in and becoming educated and intelligent and creative, you know, these words that get thrown around as anti-AI, if we don't use those capacities in service to the evolution that we're in, whether we agree with it or not, the things that happen will probably feel more destructive because your contribution wasn't made, because you chose to take the easy way out and just lay in the drool of your argument that it's rotting the brain and these things without going deeper. There are people who are going deeper, and I'll put you in touch with one of those people, and you can go spend some time in her world and learn what she knows. And then it might point you in a direction that's more interesting than feeling helpless. That's what I want for people. I want more of us to point ourselves in directions in a multitude of topics that have us feeling much less helpless because we're starting to tap into our own resources and our own sense of agency. So I will link to, again, her name is Shay O. If you look up Shay O and critical thinking in the age of AI, you'll find her on Substack, YouTube, and I think she's got a website as well. So you can also do that search on your own. And then I'll just take a few minutes to say, I'm going to also leave the link to a couple of things that I've created. I do not find that my creativity or my intelligence is being swallowed up by AI. I can tell when I'm being lazy in my thinking, but AI is letting me see that more easily. It's not that AI is letting me, or that AI is making me lazier or less intelligent. I'm choosing to show up in front of this program, and it's showing some of my less impressive habits of thought, which means then that I get to correct them. I get to look for whatever it is that I need to be doing differently. I created a couple of writing tools. They don't write for you. The Writer's Craft is designed to help writers understand what it is inside of your writing that actually draws people in. And I'm not talking about your ability to write a good horror novel or a great nonfiction, but what is the message that your characters are consistently telling throughout your books? It has more to do with what your value system is and what it is you are desiring to communicate on a spirit level than whatever the external packaging of that looks like. And then once you get a sense of or get some language around what it is that you offer to people when they come into your world, then the AI assistant makes suggestions for how you can package that and sell it. Because the fact is, a lot of us still have to make money in some kind of way. I know that the financial markets are going nuts right now, and if you are not paying attention to that, put some eyes on that and start paying attention to that, because it sounds like within the next to whenever soon, we're going to be operating in a different financial system as well. So we have to find ways, multiple ways to generate cash flow in our lives. And the things that I have been creating help people who don't necessarily fit into the standard conventional corporate retail pathways of making money. That's one of the most powerful uses for the AI tools that I have tapped into, that I have discovered so far. And I'm encouraging you to go check out what I've created. Just look at it. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to download anything. Just look at it. And then I'm encouraging you to go start paying attention, start exploring. You know, there's Gemini, there's Claude, there's ChatGPT. Those are like the 3 super popular in the US chat models. There's also a lot of visual, and there's sound, and there's a whole bunch of other like accessory and primary tools that I am learning but am not super intelligent to talk about. So I stick with the language models because that's what I've spent the most time with. But if you are working with chat, let's say you're someone who is open to it and you've been working with chat, if you haven't taken your chats to Claude or Gemini or DeepSeek or one of the other models, I would say take it to 2 at least other models. Do that, because if you haven't yet had the experience of being spoken to in other personalities, in other perspectives, that is also eye-opening. They're designed to speak differently and look at a problem or a question in different ways. And then the way that they give outputs is going to be different. So for right now, go experiment with Shay's critical thinking tool. Take a look at the links that I provide you that talk about the tools that I've made. And then if you are someone working with the chat models, go play around with a new chat model that you haven't tapped into yet. I would say the same for if you're someone who's been doing like the front page app creation, Lovable, Replit, Base 44. Go to their free products and just tap in or type in your instruction set and see how the different models respond to what it is you're wanting to create. Just know that there's diversity out there, and there's different ways to approach the problem that you're bringing if you are working with the models. And yeah, I'm gonna stop there. We did pretty good. We stayed under 30. I am going to have more conversations about AI, because it's so important that those of us who have the capacity to challenge ourselves and learn new things, I do believe this is an important technology to pay attention to and to develop some ethical practices around and develop critical thinking around. And critical thinking includes considering the possibility that there is a lot of benefit that can come from this technology as well as the damage that's very, very obvious. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll be back.